All right.
Coach Neu.
Yeah, obviously coming off a disappointing performance on Saturday, fired up to turn the page here, get ourselves ready for conference season. Obviously it's a battle in this conference week in, week out to start on the road at Western Michigan. Good football team, first-year head coach and Lance Taylor. Obviously they played on the road last week to begin MAC play at Toledo. They had a 24-14 lead at halftime, really gave Toledo everything that they could handle. So we're going to get a good football team here. They're going to be hungry just like we are for their first MAC win. And we're excited, obviously, about turning the page. And I expect our guys to respond this week, have a great week of practice, and get ourselves ready to go play at a tough place on the road.
Yeah, Coach, on Saturday you said that when you guys come back on Sunday or Monday that you were going to kind of see who's bought in and see who's ready to move forward. You seem optimistic about that. How did that conversation go?
Obviously I addressed them in the locker room after the game, and my message on Sunday after going to bed overnight, or trying to anyway, and then coming back in here on Sunday, nothing changed. Obviously we got punched in the mouth on Saturday. We didn't respond to adversity the way that you need to. Adversity is going to happen every game. Adversity is going to happen in life. We have to deal with that better. We got ourselves down 14-0. We had only run 3 offensive plays to that point. So obviously the game plan that you work on, trying to be balanced, get things established the way you want it to. When it doesn't go the way you envision, obviously you have to be ready to adjust. That goes for everybody, no matter what phase we're in. So we just really, there's not a whole lot to really discuss from Saturday that would be positive, other than we have an opportunity to turn the page here, because whether we were 4-0 to start the season, 0-4, or anywhere in between, it has no bearing on the MAC schedule, and it has no bearing on what our goals are to get accomplished. We got to respond with a great week of practice here, attack the film room, and when I say see who's all bought in, it tells me a lot. When we had 85 guys that were at a volunteer pool session this morning, so understanding the importance of getting your body back the best it can be, knowing that we played 4 games so far, that's a good step, obviously in the right direction.
Yeah, kind of in that same vein, I know it's only been 3 days, but have there been certain players who have spoken up and kind of led the charge?
I haven't been around them, to be honest with you, since game day. I meet with them on Sunday. We come in, we do our day after schedule. They're off on Monday. I know there was a player-only meeting. Obviously, I'm not involved in that, so that tells me, obviously, they're attacking it. So, I don't ask those guys what was said. I don't ask what was talked about. It's simply up to our guys that are our leaders on our football team, and they felt like that was a meeting that was necessary. I'm sure that's why they called that. But obviously I'll be excited to get back in here, get going tomorrow morning when it's our first work day as we head into Western Michigan.
Yeah, just to be clear, the players-only meeting isn't something that always happens. It's something that they called?
Correct. Yeah, that was something that was called after the game was over, and I became aware of it the next morning. Now, again, I certainly am not part of that meeting. Our team meeting takes place at 1:30, and that player meeting took place before that team meeting happened on Sunday.
Okay. Kind of moving forward into Western, obviously they've got a first-year head coach. As a conference opponent, you're familiar with the program, but with a first-year head coach, what do you know about him?
Yeah, well, the good thing is, Lance Taylor's had an excellent coaching career. Obviously, he's done a great job every step of the way to earn the opportunity he's got at Western Michigan. Western Michigan's a great program, and obviously he's come in now. We've been able to watch him on tape for 4 games. He retained defensive coordinator Lou Esposito, which we're very familiar with. Lou's been there for several years, so obviously playing against them every year. We know what his defenses are all about. What we needed to learn is what's the offense going to look like now under Lance Taylor, what's the special teams going to look like now. So now that we've got 4 tapes to attack that and get that studied, again, I'm going to emphasize that this is a good football team. They gave, they had a lot of moving parts. They had some players that put their name in the portal and left. Obviously, they acquired some guys through the portal as well. So they've done a good job, with that part of it, just like every team faces. But again, I want to keep saying they gave Toledo everything they could handle on the road at Toledo against the defending champions. That was his first taste of playing against a MAC opponent. This is a very competitive conference, but we're going to get a hungry team that did enough good things, especially last week on the road, to build off of, knowing that they come in, they keep working on themselves, they keep doing what they do. They're going to be a football team that's ready to play come Saturday.
Yeah, talk about how they kind of have a lot of moving parts as far as the transfer portal, but even this season they've had moving parts. You've seen two different quarterbacks play 2 games each. Is that something that you guys have highlighted in the film?
We will. When we talk to our guys, obviously we got to be prepared for 2 guys, because that obviously both, there's been 2 quarterbacks that have played, through the first 4 games. So we got to be prepared for that. Still trying to learn as much as we can to see if there was an injury, in the game on Saturday. And that's why Jack ended up coming back in late. But either way it goes, the good thing is we played against Jack a year ago here. When he came to our place and led them to a win here at our place. We're very familiar with him. And then, obviously I don't want to mispronounce the other young man's name, Bourget. So hopefully I pronounced that the correct way. But obviously saw a lot of crossover tape on him a year ago when he was playing. And then obviously on tape so far this year. So I think it all starts for them offensively. The running back leads our conference in rushing, 126 yards. Game, so obviously they made it known they want to get the run game established. And this guy's a special player. I mean, he for a redshirt freshman, I know I've talked with our defensive staff, and Coach Stockton kind of reminds him of a young Lou Nichols that played at Central Michigan that finished up his career last year. So this guy's a special player, and I think it's obviously not a secret that you can see he's leading our conference in attempts, rushing yards, and rushing yards per game. So we got to be ready to go.
Yeah, you said that you talked with Stockton about Buckley and also just the run game in general. What's the approach going into this game?
Well, just like we always do, we take a lot of pride in being very good defensively against a run. It starts with us doing our job, being gap sound, doing a good job as a tackling football team, because when you're facing running backs at this level, they're all good. They're all going to break tackles. They're all going to be good with yards after contact. And Buckley's the same way. He's one of those guys that he can deliver it any way you want it. He can run over you, he can run through you, he can run around you. So he's a guy that is going to challenge us to be a good tackling football team this week. And we take pride in drilling that each and every day in practice, and it's going to be a good challenge.
Yeah, you've alluded to last season's matchup against Western. Ball State was winning going into the 4th quarter,
yep.
And then ultimately Western won. Kind of similar to what we were talking about with Georgia Southern last week. Is this a game where you're going in, not dwelling on that past game, but kind of using it as motivation?
No, every team's different. Really for us, there was a lot of games that you could look at, and we were in 1-possession games last year in our conference. It's a new season. It's a new season in every sense of the word, because this is our first conference game. We're back to work this week, and they're all good, but our focus is just on this Western Michigan football team. They're different than they were a year ago. We're different than we were a year ago. So other than knowing that we're going to get their best shot, and we got to do everything we can to have a great week of practice to make sure that they're going to get our best shot. And I'm very confident that our guys will respond, and will be focused this week throughout the week of preparation.
Yeah. Obviously, you mentioned they played Toledo. They played a conference game already. Do you feel like that's an added advantage for them, having played a conference game already?
Certainly when you're playing against the best that there is right out of the gate, because Toledo's a defending champ. So until somebody else knocks them off, they're the champions right now. And to be able to go on the road to Toledo for your first MAC game, it's not going to get any harder. So obviously, I'm sure starting out right out of the gate with that, they'll turn that into a positive. They were up 24-14 at halftime. Played a great game. Obviously, a few plays here and there, and obviously that game, Toledo pulled away a little bit late, but it was a great football game, and Western Michigan showed that they belonged on that field with Toledo.
Yeah. On Saturday, you talked a lot about execution and how things need to get better in that aspect. What specifically are you looking for in practice this week in that kind of aspect?
Yeah, guys got to do their job. You know, I can carve it up any way you want to carve it up, but at the end of the day, guys got to go out and do your job. Everybody does, and not just one person. You know, you think about that game, we got ourselves down 14-0. We'd run 3 plays offensively. Well, first play of the game for us offensively, the snap's on the ground. You know, got to do your job. That guy Ethan Crowe snapped the ball multiple times in his career. He'll respond. He'll get that done. But it's just, you got to go out and execute. You know, you got to go out and execute. You got to trust, you know, that you know, the preparation that you put in. You got to trust what you're being asked to do is what's going to get it done. And each guy's just got to step up. Each guy's got to step up, do his job, and then we'll be able to go out and execute. So nothing crazy, nothing earth-shattering, just a little thing here, a little thing there. But those little things make the biggest difference.
Is that the same in preparation this week? Just because I believe on Saturday as well, you said that you feel like you didn't do a good enough job of preparing the team for Georgia Southern.
I'm always, yeah, and I'm always going to blame myself. It starts with me. So we didn't win. It's always going to start with me. It's my fault first and foremost. So my job is just to make sure that everything we're asking our guys to do, whatever it is, whether it's in the weight room, whether it's in the meeting room, whether it's on the practice field, it's all got to add up. To make sure that we're putting our guys in a position to be successful. And so obviously I've been examining that, hard at work at that ever since that game finished on Saturday night, and we'll continue to do that. But there will be a few tweaks to what we do on the practice field tomorrow when we get back out there again, and that's all being done because I feel like it's what's best for our guys to compete, make sure that competition is where it needs to be on the practice field.
Yeah, I guess just lastly, you know, with conference play starting, the last 8 games of the season are all conference games. Obviously, conference play is always important for sure, but correct me if I'm wrong, you guys have to go 5-3 in order to be bowl eligible. With that in mind, do you feel like conference play is even more important?
I'll leave that up to you. I'm worried about just this week and going 1-0. I don't ever want to get ahead of ourselves. We can't look at the light right now at the end of the tunnel. We got to just be focused on what's right in front of us. That's all I'm asking the guys to do. None of us can play out the scenarios in our head. We can't do the math in our own head and say this is what has to happen or that has to happen. Really just trying to keep it simple. Just one game at a time. I know that's boring. But we're trying to focus on just that. We got to come back here, have a great week of practice. We got knocked down. So let's get back up. Let's get ourselves off the mat. Let's come back fighting and show what we're capable of and what we're all about as a football program. And so just keeping it simple, focused on just this game only. Don't really care about anything else down the road right now other than just making sure we have a great week of preparation here to give ourselves the best chance on Saturday.
Absolutely.
You said going to the MAC is kind of a new season. Are you kind of looking at it as just a clean 0-0 slate?
I am, and I know I said that a couple minutes ago there, but whether we were 4-0 in non-conference play or 0-4 or anywhere in between, it has no bearing on what our goals are for this conference. We've turned the page. Even if it was, no matter how it would have sliced up these first 4 games non-conference, either way, you got to turn the page and you got to move forward. You got to learn about your football team the best you can, and you got to carry some of those things that were really good for you, really positive for you. You got to build on those as you head into conference play. But it's a new season, new opponent. This conference is awesome from top to bottom, very competitive week in, week out, and it's a great challenge to go on the road. Week number 1 against Western Michigan, who's got a great program. Obviously, you know, Coach Taylor and his staff now, they've gotten 4 games together under their belt, so they've been hard at work on their end to just continue to get better and better, and it's going to be a great challenge for us.
And we saw Kyle Kelly in that little bit of the third quarter, most of the fourth quarter, and even catching some passes in the first half. Is that something we can expect to see him more be like a utility tool for that offense?
Yeah, and I know I kind of touch on it a little bit every week with Kyle. Kyle's one of those guys that's a dynamic playmaker, so we got to continue to keep examining what his role is every week. You know, how can we get him on the field? How can we get the ball in his hands? How can we take advantage of his skill set? It all really starts with that, and we'll continue to work on that every single week, and that'll be a big part of it this week as well. Okay. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Be back with players in just a moment.
Really where I want to start is Neu just talked about a players-only meeting happening on Sunday before the team met, and it's not something that is happening every weekend, and it was a special player-only meeting that was called. Who led the charge on that? Like, who called that meeting?
It was more the TCs and the leadership council really just wanted to just address some things and get ready for MAC play. You know, this is a crucial time of the year. These 8 games really do determine the season. Everything we want is still in front of us as far as the MAC championship goes and as far as bowl game goes. So we just have to get everybody back on the same page and assess the morale. That's really all it was.
If you don't mind, who's on that leadership council, or who are the team captains?
Well, it was the two tough Cardinals, the 9 tough Cardinals. Me and Ethan are 2. But it's a group of about 16 of us, select few from each class. Tristan Cook, and he's one of the young guys that I think of that's on that crew. Tanner Cole, he was on that as well. This is, like you said, it's a group of guys that just keep the team as one and keep the bond together, that's all.
Yeah. You said that you guys just talked about the importance of going forward, like in MAC play. And what Coach Neu said is he wanted to see what the team is made of after Saturday. He addressed you guys in the locker room, basically said he wanted each and every one of you to kind of look in the mirror and see who's bought in to going forward. And I feel like that meeting kind of shows that these guys on the team are willing to do that. So what was the atmosphere like in that player-only meeting?
It was more just listening and understanding because, like you say, a lot of people had their own opinions about how things go, but at the end of the day, we all got to be moving forward as one, regardless of how we felt about Saturday. It was a feeling that nobody wanted to feel again, and it was something that we're going to make sure we start in the locker room from practice every day, that we continue to do what we got to do so we don't feel that feeling again. So we just wanted to make sure that we all just on the same page, one thing. This goal is winning games.
Yeah. Did you speak up in that meeting?
Yeah, I was one of the people that spoke up in that meeting.
Do you remember what you said?
Not word for word, verbatim. It was more like just we got to trust each other and just continue to lift each other up and be supportive and just play for one another, play for each other, and go hard because you want to see each other have success, and that's all we was focusing on.
Yeah. And I guess just moving forward to Western, last season you guys played. It was the first conference game again last year and ended up losing by 7, one-possession game. Do you remember that loss and what it felt like?
I definitely do, and like you say, it wasn't a good feeling. You never want to lose. You expect you go in and prepare to win every week, 1-0. So, but just things that we got to pick on from that game. Just know that they like to run the ball, and we got to start up front with us, like as the Bucks and the D line. It just goes winning first downs and just continuing to push the pace and just know that we got to win and we got to stop the run to be able to do that.
For you as an edge who likes to get a lot of pressure on the quarterback, you also have to dedicate a lot of your time to stopping the run. What's the difference, if there is any, in approaches as far as it goes to getting the quarterback and also stopping the run?
Honestly, you just kind of it's kind of the same. You approach everything the same intent, just violence and play with your technique that you practice every day. Just making sure that know that team. You got to watch film and know what that team likes to do on first and second downs. Those are base downs, more run downs, and just know on third down the way they try to slide, like they like to slide away from the back, or they like to match protect with the tight ends. Like, you just got to be aware of that, and they go from, like you say, just practice throughout the week and film study and getting reps from the scout team and just getting used to it and seeing it firsthand. So that's really how that feels.
And I assume it's probably the same mentality, whereas there's no difference. I know they've had 2 different guys at quarterback this year, and I assume that doesn't change your approach at all either.
No, because like you said, the team gonna do what they do, and like you said, they got 2 of the similar style quarterbacks, and it's a big difference between 2. But we kind of just approach the same. They're gonna try to stick to their game plan and establish the run. Like last week, we know they had a guy go over 200, so they're gonna try to feed him again. So we just gotta address that first.
Yeah. Last season, Western Michigan and Ball State, neither team recorded a sack when you guys played each other. Is that kind of something that you have a point of emphasis on and want to make sure that you're getting more pressure in this game?
Definitely just attacking the opportunity when they come. Like you say, just knowing the situation, just third down, having that mindset, all right, get out of it. They know they ran on first and second, but now we have them in a situation where we know we can pin our ears back and get after them and just capitalize. Like you say, just win our one-on-ones. That's the main thing, just win our one-on-ones.
For sure. And I guess also the defense always places emphasis on forcing turnovers. Western Michigan has forced a few more turnovers than Ball State has this year, and I know also it's a point from Coach that he feels like the offense can limit their turnovers and the defense can force some more. How do you feel like the defense can go about doing that?
Honestly, just getting back to the basics, like we say, we practice out the mud every day in practice and practicing on punching the ball out and stripping it out. And I think we just got to be mindful when those situations approach us in the game and just be mindful of that practice and try to get more strips and get more interceptions and take more chances and take more shots. Like you say, having fun is one of that part of the game that we got to get back to doing. And I feel like turnovers will start coming if we start playing faster and just having more fun. And I think that's how that happens.
And I guess just lastly, I know that a motto around the team is one at a time, whether it's one practice at a time, one game at a time. But you kind of know going forward, you guys have to go 5-3 in the MAC to be bowl eligible. Obviously, you're also competing for a MAC conference title. What's just the mindset in the locker room going forward as you guys approach MAC play?
Honestly, just all positive. Like you say, we got a clean slate right now. We 0-0. Like, we got to take the wins and losses from the last 4 weeks and just learn from them and just take the positive and build on it from there and let the negatives go. Like you said, we had a clean slate. We 0-0 in MAC play, just like everybody else. Well, I mean, a couple teams played last week, but as far as we go, we 0-0. So, like I said, we focus on Western Michigan right now, and that's our number one priority. And as we say, everything we want is still in front of us, so we just got to focus on that.
So there's not necessarily like an added motivation?
It is an added motivation because we know we still got everything we want. We can still go 8-0 in the MAC. Like, that's a very good possibility. We know who we are. We just got to produce and put it on the field. That's all it is.
Absolutely.
I'll say with Clayton being out for a couple weeks now, do you think the defense is fully adjusted to that loss?
Honestly, I feel like we have adjusted pretty good with losing Clayton because he's still around. Like, he hasn't went anywhere. He's in meetings, leading just exactly as he was, just not on the field. So I think he's done a perfect job of keeping guys like Keontae and Joey Stemler and Jack Beebe like in the loop and making sure he's leaning on those guys and instilling all his information and his knowledge that he has into them so that they can play faster and recognize things faster and communicate better. So it definitely hurts not having his physical presence on the field because, like you say, he's a one-of-a-kind player. And definitely love playing with him, but I feel like him and Coach Stock have done a really good job of getting the guys up to speed who has to step up at this moment. So.
Even though he's not on the field, do you find yourself almost trying to step into a bigger role on the field to replace that presence?
Definitely, and that was one of the things in the offseason that the coaches talked about and me and Clayton personally talked about, just using my voice more, like, especially me coming in last year, being my first year here transferring in. It was definitely, like I say, I wanted to ease my way in and make sure all the guys understood who I was as a leader and as a person, so before I invoke my opinion and voice up more. But now, this season, I'm definitely having to do more and definitely speak up more because I know the guys respect me and I know they know who I am as a person and they love me just like I love them. So it definitely has been better knowing that Clayton is right there to lean on and ask questions and help me understand things that I haven't been approached with since he's been here for 4 years and I've only been here for 2. So he definitely helped me with his knowledge and passes that through me, and I try to spread it through the team on the field as well.
That's it for me. Next.
Appreciate it.
I just have one more thing I just thought of. I've just noticed after a big play of yours, whether it's a tackle for loss or sack, or even in the hype video, what's the guitar mean? What's the guitar celebration?
Honestly, my best friend, he passed away in December 2022, 2021 actually, right before I transferred here. And in high school, there used to be a celebration, so I kind of just do it for him and just do it in remembrance to show I'm playing for him and as well as the rest of my family.
Absolutely. Would you mind sharing his name?
Shamon Hudson.
How would you spell that?
SHAMONHUDSON.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys.
That's all I got. Thank you, man.
Appreciate it, man.
Yep.
Good story.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks, sir. All right.
Ethan, we'll start off with the kind of players-only meeting. I just kind of want to get your perspective on it as well. Sidney said that the leadership council called it. You're on that council. Why do you think that it was important to call that meeting?
I just think it was important to call the meeting just to talk about what happened, make sure that we as a team are all on the same page, we all have the same mindset, get past it, move on, because action's already here. It's week 5, going into the season. It's time to get ready for that.
Yeah. At least to the media, you're always willing to talk, but I would call you soft-spoken. Did you speak up in that meeting?
I would say I did not personally. Like you said, I'm soft-spoken. I try to lead more by example than talking. That's just who I am.
Right, and that's totally okay. But do you remember what was kind of going through your head during that meeting?
Yeah, I would say I just wanted to make sure, like, as much as this meeting was needed, I was like, all right, the game happened, we lost, we're talking about it now, forget about it, move on. We have literally 8 more weeks about football. We cannot be worrying about a loss. Like, we got MACtion coming up, because MACtion is a whole different thing itself, because it's the MAC, anything can happen.
Yeah. Not to place emphasis on kind of a misfortune of yours, but Coach Neu talked about how really from the first play of the game last week, things started to go wrong. There was kind of maybe a botched snap or a miscommunication. I don't know what it was, where the snap was low for Samanza, and then he ends up missing Kozil. That's kind of uncharacteristic from you. Do you remember your headspace after that play, and did you kind of connect with Samanza to make sure that didn't happen again?
I'd say, yeah. So, like, when I snap the ball, I'm thinking, all right, he's going to the same place it always is. And I'm going to think that until I'm told otherwise, which Samanza was. As soon as that play was over with, he told me snap was low. I was like, got it, fix it as soon as I did. But it was one snap I can't get back. Simple as that. It's move on to the next, don't mess up any other ones.
Right. Do you feel like having that mentality within the entire team, where it's like, hey, we can't dwell on our mistakes, we can't dwell on a loss or something like that? Do you think that makes it easier to just kind of start with that clean slate that everybody talks about?
I agree. Yes, I think it does help, because I think as soon as something's over with, no matter what the outcome, we learn from it, no matter what, and then we move on, because time doesn't stop. It's going to keep going. We're going to keep playing more games. So I think people just need to really think about that clean slate and just think in a clear mindset and just be right there for the week.
Yeah. As far as Western goes, last season when you guys played against Western, you didn't allow any sacks. That's got to be a point of pride on the offensive line. How do you feel like you can duplicate that success this year?
I say, so this week we're really going to be emphasizing like play game. We're going to practice how we play. We need to be a lot more intense. We need to be basically on our stuff. We need to know get everything down to the basics, fundamentally sound stuff like that.
Yeah. Why do you feel like you kind of added an emphasis on being more intense and kind of approaching things more head on? Why do you think it's important to do that?
Because I mean the last 4 weeks I feel like this team, we've been practicing really good, but I think we have to, as a team, take it to another level, to really make sure that we are not we are not going to lose. We are not going to accept a loss. We are going to win no matter what, and we need to practice like that every single day.
Yeah. Kind of talking about MAC play. Obviously, MAC champions in 2020. The past 2 seasons haven't really worked out like you guys wanted them to. With that in mind, and you've been here for all of that, what do you think this season's MAC play means to you, and what does it mean for the team?
It means a lot, just because you're right. A lot of us, that class that was in that 2020 who won the MAC, there's not a whole bunch of them who played or were here for that. So it's kind of this team needs to set an identity for itself and really needs to we need to win the MAC. That's our goal. That's something we want to set for ourselves. It's a standard here.
Yeah. A lot has been said about Western's rushing ability. Their top running back has 500 rushing yards this season, which is more than all state has combined. And it's been a point of emphasis that you guys need to kind of get the run game going. Neu has said that. Players have said that. Going into MAC play, how do you feel like you, as the leader of the offensive line, can kind of spearhead the rushing attack?
I think it starts up front, starts with offensive line. It's something that we really need to put an emphasis on, really declaring the run, making sure that the guys up front, we're doing our jobs correctly. We're getting people off the ball, stuff like that.
You guys have played against some really good defensive lines so far, but you feel like there's anything in particular that the offensive line can do better going forward? Because when we talked with Corey on Saturday, he said he doesn't feel like the offensive line has lived up to its potential. Do you think that there's anything in particular you guys that can do better?
No, I agree with that. I think we need to cut out like our mental mistakes and just like I was talking about earlier, being fundamentally sound with our like all our footwork, everything we do. We just need to be sound and like just it needs to come natural when we're out there.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a different mentality going into these MAC games than you would say like a regular non-conference game?
I would say yeah, because these conference games they matter a lot more rather than the non-conference games. But I mean, the non-conference those are games you want to win. You want to have the good record. But now that we're here in action, now this is how we make a MAC championship. This is how we make bowl games now.
I know Coach said when you asked him that you guys have to go 5-3 to make a bowl game, he's not really focused on that at the end of the road, 1 week at a time. Is that how you're looking at it as well?
Oh, absolutely. I look at it like one day at a time. Like tomorrow's we got practice. That's all I'm worried about. Western, we'll play them Saturday. It's simple as that.
I guess I just do have one more. Obviously, I don't want to say that you guys, haven't been focused or anything like that. So don't think I'm saying that.
No, I got you.
Do you think that when you're done with non-conference and you can just solely focus on conference play, that kind of helps the team hone in on that one game at a time mentality?
I think so. I think it'll be because these are teams that we play every single year. This is our conference. I think it helps people feel more comfortable going against teams that we've always played, stuff like that.
For sure. I think that's all I got.
All right, cool.
Thank you, Ethan.
Thank you, guys.
Ethan, thank you.